Hey there. My name is Leo. I'm a voice actor for video games and animation, and I'll talk more about my projects at the end of this episode. Let's go back for a second, okay? The year is 1998. I'm 8 years old, and video games? Well, they're rad. They're dope. 1998, to be clear, is the year that Tekken 3 came out. It's the year Resident Evil 2 came out. It's the year Ocarina of Time and Metal Gear Solid came out. Ever heard of those? So good. Now, there is another game that came out that year that it seems like fewer people remember, but 23 years later, I still think about it like twice a month. And though it's old enough to drink and make terrible life choices, its theme song still slaps.
What about now? It's time to rock with the biggity Buck Bumble. What about now? It's time to rock with the biggity Buck Bumble. Bum to the bump to the bump to the bass. Bum to the bump to the bumble. Bum to the bump to the bump to the bass. Bum to the bump to the bumble.
That's right. I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes talking about Buck Bumble. I'll tell you what I love about it, but for those of you who haven't played this 90s gem, let me set the stage. Buck Bumble put you in the distant, impossible-to-imagine future, 2010, which, even by 1998 standards, is just so funny. You know the idea of saying, far into the future, tomorrow. It's not long, that's not far off. Anyway, doesn't matter. A chemical spill outside of London has mutated a bunch of insects, and oh boy, they are evil. They are evil insects. They are called the Herd. And there is a terrible Herd Queen who looks like a late-generation Pokemon, commanding them as they attempt to take over the garden and eventually the world. Who is to stop them? Well, luckily there's an organization known as the Resistance, and one humble bumblebee has signed up, volunteered to be hooked up with cybernetics and armed to the fucking mandibles with lasers, rocket launchers, and all sorts of dope, futuristic, sci-fi 2010 technology. He has probably the right number of legs, blue shoes and armor, and human hands. That was part of his upgrade, I guess. And I also remember him having sunglasses, but I looked up pictures, and I'm pretty sure those are just his normal bee eyes and maybe 90s graphics. Gameplay involved flying around, or walking sometimes. These big garden arenas. You would blast enemies with 11 different guns that you would kind of pick up and gradually unlock. Engaging in some genuinely fun dogfights. As a side note, this game was developed by some of the people who worked on Star Fox, if that helps paint the picture at all. And you'd be tasked with missions like deliver a bomb without it touching anything, destroy living generators, or, sneak into outposts that these Herd bastards constructed and blowing them up. It was cool. James Bond had nothing on Buck Bumble. And that was the campaign. That was the one player, and it was dope. I mean, now that I've said all of that, it should be obvious that this is incredible. But I'm going to get specific now about what I love about this game and why it stuck with me for so many years. Now, broadly, Buck Bumble exists in that just incredible pocket of game development where, does it make sense and is it grounded and realistic was just thrown into the fucking blender in favor of is it dope as hell, right? Earthworm Jim, Super Monkey Ball, Katamari Damacy, Oddworld, Abe's Adventure. Need I go on? These are fun games, and is it realistic that you are a bumblebee with a laser gun destroying spy satellites? Of course it's not. Is it dope as fuck? Yeah, it is. Of course it is. Also, you at no point use your stinger. You would think that the defining weapon of bees would make an appearance, but no, not even remotely. It's all guns. It's live ammunition. It's amazing. It also controlled pretty well for the era. I mean, this was a 3D, third-person shooting game where you flew around. It's a challenge, and they did a pretty good job. Also, you could fly to the ground and walk around, pitter-pattering your fat little bee body just so slow. And it was incredible. It was adorable. But flying and walking at that time in 1998 in a video game was actually genuinely pretty innovative. I mean, this is real 10 out of 10 stuff. Now, I'm a fan of sound design, so obviously I've already played a little bit of that theme song. That stuck with me. The music that played during the levels, I loved it. I thought it was great, had some great driving bass lines, some catchy tunes overall that made playing through the missions pretty fun. But the game developers also made so many bold choices regarding the sounds of the game, right? Imagine in your mind's eye what it would sound like to blast a bug out of the sky who's flying at you, like a hornet or a wasp. You know, you shoot it with your laser and it blows up. What does that sound like? Now that you maybe have an idea in your head, let's take a look at what they did. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. You're wrong. That's what it sounds like. That's a bug being shot out of the sky. Okay, well, what about when you are really low on health? You've taken a lot of damage and you need to heal. Well, luckily they have nectar. Now this one's a little bit more predictable, but hanging deliciously, delectably from flower petals, you can get this nectar. And hear this. Oh yeah, that sounds great. That sounds wonderful. That puts me in the mood for some sweet, sweet nectar. And listen, you might even die. If you're not careful, this game was not easy. Not super easy. It wasn't super hard either, but you might die. And if you die, we get this mournful screech from Buck. So haunting. So haunting. The one last thing that I wanted to talk about in my meandering, rambling monologue is the game's other mode, which was multiplayer. And I thought about this regularly, like once or twice a month. I've thought about this multiplayer and how much I want it today, right? There was a dogfight deathmatch, of course, 1v1. You know, you're fighting your enemies, your friends, your lovers. And that's fine. You can't not have a deathmatch dogfighting mode in Buck Bumble. But there was another mode, and I don't think you're going to expect it if you didn't play the game yourself. There was a soccer mode. Are you kidding me? So good. So good. So what Rocket League did with cars and soccer, and what Fall Guys did with floppy jelly beans and soccer, Buck Bumble did over 20 years ago. And to be clear, you are playing a bee-sized bee 1v1 with a soccer ball, human soccer ball-sized soccer ball in this big, empty, basically human-sized soccer field. Although the goals were sort of caves in stone walls. To move the soccer ball, you would build up speed with your little bee body, and you would throw yourself against the side of this soccer ball, and it did hilariously little. It did almost nothing to move that ball. You could shoot it with your laser gun, because again, cybernetics, Buck Bumble, he's a badass, he's got lasers. But really where the fun and the chaos came in, there were rocket launchers that you could find around the map that would punch the ball, really send it flying, really send it shooting across the map. And that mode was absurd. It was so much fun. It never felt super in control. I'm sure part of that was I was 8 or 9 years old, so I wasn't great at games. I'm still not, but I was especially not great at games then. It was always hectic. I mean, you just couldn't anticipate what the other player was going to do. And all of the competitive sensations were built upon this platform of we're both bees doing our best against a human soccer ball. That's absurd and wonderful in just the best way, Anyway, I'll say as a closing note, with games like Fist and Clid the Snail, I do see a few developers embracing strange, bold characters without then also feeling the need to make strange, bold worlds and crazy, wacky stories. Having grounded stories but weird characters is fun. And I love it. I love it when you can have a character who is a bumblebee with cybernetics, but then he's this hard-boiled bee taking out evil weevils and menacing mosquitoes, Video games can do so many things, but it really will be a dark day if we ever stop getting characters who leave us with questions. They make us question our own sense of normal. Am I the weird one for being freaked out that I'm a bee? And the answer is yes. Just have fun. Grab a giant laser gun, maybe play some soccer with your pals, and rock out to one of the best frickin' theme songs in 30 years. Buck Bumble.
What about now? It's time to rock with the biggity Buck Bumble. What about now? It's time to rock with the biggity Buck Bumble.
Thank you for listening. My name is Leo Wiggins. You can hear me in games like Blair Witch, AFK Arena, Neopets Island Builders, Receiver 2, and many, many more. And I produce Gom Jabbar, the #1 Dune podcast in the world. That's Dune. If you have any interest in the sci-fi book series or the upcoming movies by Denis Villeneuve, check out Gom Jabbar wherever you get your podcasts. And that's spelled Gomjabbar. Gom Jabbar. Thanks again for your time. And as always, happy gaming.